Hi, Rita.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm gonna go downstairs and hope I don't have another falling off the internet issue during the meeting. Could you hear me, Rita?
Yes.
I know, there's Melissa. Okay, I'm gonna make Melissa the co-host. So we're just waiting on Eric.
Yes.
Okay. Linda's here.
I can't hear anything.
You can't hear me?
Oh,
Can you hear me? Tom? Hi, Tom.
hi, thank you. I couldn't hear for a moment. I'll mute myself. Good evening.
No, it's good to make sure it's working. All right.
We're just going to wait a minute until you are settled downstairs, Becky.
Oh, she's coming down. I'll move over. I'll get her chair.
Okay.
You know that Kristen just got called out. Emergency.
Okay. So, well, we could always just
Move things
that.
around. Yeah.
Are you all set, Becky?
Okay. I'm good, Rita.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and call a meeting of the Shutesbury Selectboard to order for April 26, 2022. We have a pretty full agenda this evening. I'll just review what it is and then we'll move into public comment. So we have minutes to review from 3 different meetings, and we're going to be reviewing the municipal light plant contract with the South Hadley Electric Light Department. At 6:10, we'll have a discussion with the athletic club about possible extension of live entertainment hours. 6:30, we were scheduled with Kristen. We'll see if she's here. If she isn't, we'll move things around concerning the
She is here. I
CJIS
see her.
policy. Oh, hi, Kristen.
I see her there.
Okay, she's here.
Sorry, I thought it was quick.
Then select board review of the police study group final report. After that, the building committee charge bylaw. We're going to take a break around 7:10, and then we have rejoin at 7:25 to review warrant articles for town meeting, the contract with Casella for waste disposal, regional school capital plan, then a request 7:50, a request to use lot 032 for an event, town administrator updates, and at 8:05 we have executive session for reason number 6 to consider purchase, exchange, lease, value of real property. There we go. So as I said, a very full agenda. So I want to go ahead and open the floor for public comments. And if you please use the raise hand feature so that I can see you. And if I miss somebody, Melissa or Eric, let me know.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, thanks. I
Mainly want to present this in relation to the Buildings Committee part of the agenda, but I'm not sure if I'd be recognized at that point. So I'm going to make my comment now. So over the past year, the chair of the Buildings Committee has brought to the attention of the Select Board problems the Buildings Committee has encountered and requested help from the Select Board in addressing the problems. One of the problems was not being able to form a quorum for meetings because of chronic absenteeism of several members. He asked you to remove these inactive members and appoint a person who had volunteered to be on the committee, was available to attend meetings, and would be able to contribute. Another problem was the effect of COVID restrictions on in-person meetings and the difficulty adapting to online remotely conducted meetings. While town employees suffering under the same constraints were praised and rewarded for their perseverance, Bob was criticized for not doing better. One other problem he highlighted was the lack of coordination between the town administrator and the Buildings Committee. Oftentimes, the Buildings Committee was kept out of the loop regarding projects they should have been included in. In some cases, this went as far as the town administrator forming her own subcommittee to address what should have been handled by the Buildings Committee. The Select Board solution to these issues is to rewrite the Buildings Committee bylaw.
Mike,
Effectively,
is this much, Mike, excuse me, is this going to be much longer? Because if it is, I just ask that you submit this in writing. We have a
No.
really full agenda.
No, I've got just a little bit more. But Select Board solution to these issues is to rewrite the Buildings Committee bylaw, effectively disbanding the Buildings Committee and starting over. It seems to be unnecessary and detrimental to protecting the interests of town residents. The new bylaw will put professionals into the positions
Mike,
currently held by
okay.
citizen volunteers.
Mike, I have 3 more people who have their hands up, so I'm just going to ask you to submit the balance in writing. We understand
Thank you.
the gist of what you're saying, but we have a really full meeting, so I ask that you submit it in writing.
Well, I don't understand. If I submit it in writing, then it never gets into the.
Yes, it's in the minutes. Yes, it is.
And
Yes,
then,
it's in the. Okay,
And
I'm
it-
going to move on. I am going to move on. We set aside a short amount of time for this, and I ask that you make it short, and I ask you to submit it in writing. So I'm going to turn to Steve Schmidt. Steve, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry. I see there's an executive session a matter on here about a negotiating a land swap, potential land swap with Coles. And I wonder if there's anything that can be said in open session to explain to townspeople anything about what land is involved. I realize that, dollar amounts and so forth need to be done confidentially, but can we get any idea of what this is about?
I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm frozen.
I don't know, Becky, you want to respond to
Yeah,
that?
this is an old issue, Steve, that went to town meeting about 8 or 9 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe now. This is not a new issue. It's been back and forth roundabout for the last decade. So you'll find it referred to in a lot of minutes. And I can talk more to you after the meeting.
Okay,
Jeff?
okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Select Board. Thank you. I'll be brief. I'm going to try to be around for the topics, but I want to just address them. As far as the athletic club goes, I would favor extending their hours at least until 11. I think that's reasonable. In upstate New York, where I grew up, we'd go out at 11 and then stay out till 4. So 11 o'clock closing or 11 o'clock for the finish of music sounds pretty reasonable to me. And on the building committee, I have 4 concerns, and I'll list them off briefly. One is that the town administrator appears to be a voting member of that committee. I don't know if TAs are voting members of any other committees. This sounds like a precedent. And it doesn't sound like a good one to me. I'm also urging the bylaw be flexible on membership, perhaps more as a guide than an absolute dictate as to who should be on it. Sometimes in this town, we're lucky to get good people who want to get involved and learn about a topic. So I don't think we should prevent them from doing that. Third, don't tie the hands. Let them work with project proponents. We do this all the time on zoning board and planning board, trying to get to I. And I think the building committee needs a little bit of flexibility to do that. And finally, I'm concerned about the optics of making big changes in the building committee right ahead of the library project, which is probably going to come before them. Why provide ammunition to those critical of the library project? And I think making big changes in the building committee would be just that kind of ammunition. So I urge you not to do it. Thank you.
We will be taking up the building committee charge around 6:55 for anybody else who wants to stay for that. Okay, any other comments? I don't see any other hands. Okay, we're going to move along to review 3 sets of minutes, starting with April 5th. Are there any questions, select board members, regarding those minutes?
They look good to me.
Nope, I have no comment on those, other than thank you to Linda and Becky.
Yes, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of April 5th, 2022?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes of April 5th, 2022.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Tucker, aye.
Farrell, aye. We have minutes from April 12th, 2022. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from April 12th, 2022.
Second,
Any discussion, any changes, edits, additions, deletions? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Tucker, aye.
Farrell, aye. And we have minutes from April 14th, 2022. Is that correct, Linda?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, I'll make
Really
a
soon.
motion that we approve the minutes from April 14th, 2022.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Tucker, aye.
And Farrell, aye. Okay, so we are going to review the MLP contract with South Hadley Electric Light Department. And is somebody here to talk about that? Is Gail joining us?
Gail will be, said she would be joining you at 6.
Okay, all right, it's
Talked
2 minutes
about
of
half an
6.
hour ago.
Okay, so Steve, do you or somebody just want to briefly describe what this is, or do you want to wait for Gail?
We have a new contract, which is an intergovernmental agreement with the South Hadley Electric Light Department, which is an MLP, so it can be done as an intergovernmental agreement. Which needs, as any contract, needs to be signed by the select board. So that's what Gail will be requesting. She said she sent a copy out to the select board last week and asked if there were any comments. So I'm
Of course, it was a
assuming
38-page contract, so, or intergovernmental agreement, which I did scan through, but didn't quite absorb in total. But
I finished reading it about an hour ago and called Gail with my comments, and she was busily making little tweaks, but
Gail's here.
okay.
Do you
Okay.
like? Oh, I guess.
Gail, do you
she'll-
want to unmute? And we were just we had a minute or two, so we were just starting to talk about the intergovernmental agreement, but maybe you could just talk about the genesis of why we're doing this, of why the MLP is switching from Crocker to South Hadley Municipal Light, and then what you're looking for from the select board this evening.
Sure, glad to. So as you know, Crocker was our initial internet service provider and network operator. And they did a wonderful job getting us up and running and kind of being our initial person to help us get our network started, with onboarding 760 plus customers. So they've done a fine job. The reason why we're switching is because their contract is up this year. And there's some things that Sheld, South Hadley Gas and Electric, can offer us as a municipal provider that aren't available from a private provider. So one thing is existing geographic circuits for us to use to solve our ring protection program problem. That probably doesn't mean anything to you, but what it means is that by going with Sheld, we can have redundant pathways for the internet to get into town. Right now, we have a vulnerability with just one direct route. So, if a car hits a utility pole on that route, the whole town loses internet. With this new thing, if we'll have various pathways coming in from both the north and the south for us, so that we don't have that vulnerability.
Yeah, everybody's having a problem.
Can I stop you for just a second? There's a lot of feedback. I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Yeah, I was hearing that too.
Yeah, if everybody who's not speaking could just mute yourselves, that way maybe that will deal with everybody but Gail for the time being. Could mute yourselves, including me.
Okay. That sounds better. I don't hear it anymore. Okay. So in case you didn't hear that, I was going over the benefits that the Sheld can offer us, and in a nutshell, it's more redundancy. So our network is more stable and has better resiliency. It is going to save around $30,000 a year for us. That's a combination of backhaul savings. Backhaul is the connection to the wider internet. We can get a deal through Sheld because they're a municipality, and also we can do a longer term deal with them for reduced costs. They also have no monthly truck retainer fee, which we were paying to Crocker and subcontractors. So that alone is a savings of $12,000. And also a $1 reduction per subscriber, and that'll be passed on immediately to everybody once we make the switch. So that's represents about $9,000 in savings total. So also in terms of I mentioned the truck retainer. One thing that I think is the most appealing part about the Sheld contract is that we get to work with a municipality that brings that stability. Being a government entity, they're not going to go out of business. We had that problem about 6 months ago with one of the subcontractors that Crocker worked with went bankrupt. And we've been using an interim contractor in the meantime. So them being a municipality, we get that stability that a municipality offers. They also have competitive pricing for field repairs. And let's see what else. They have on-staff security experts. One of the things we've been looking at the last couple of years is how do we protect our residents from hacks, and how do we protect our network? And so them as a municipality already have security experts on staff to help us. And as a public utility, the requirements that they have to follow are really stringent, and those requirements are going to get passed on to us as one of their kind of customer extensions. And let's see, the final thing is that they also offer mutual aid agreements with other utilities in the area. So if there was a big storm, we would be able to tap into those extra resources, which you just can't get with a private subcontractor. You know, if once they're out of trucks, you're out of luck. And in this way, not only do we have these local agreements, but they have other agreements with people in other states if something goes down, because again, they're public utility, they provide electricity, which is an essential service. So anyway, lots of reasons why we've decided to switch. I think it's a really good decision. It's an intergovernmental agreement. It'll be for a 3-year term. If we're unhappy after that, we can always RFP again for a private provider. Or we could extend our contract with them through an intergovernmental agreement.
Great, thanks. Thanks,
Sure.
Gail.
And
So,
yeah,
ahead.
sorry. And so what we're looking for tonight is a vote from the select board to approve the contract. I sent it all around to the select board a week ago for you to review and sign it. And the MLP board will be voting tomorrow night to direct me to sign it. And then we'll be off and running, and the switch will happen in August if everything's approved.
Okay, did I see?
Steve, did you want to say something?
Yeah. You're
Yeah,
on mute, Steve.
I could just add one more thing about this, that Sheld, who is pretty much a new entity for us to deal with, although we did actually get a big help from them when we had an outage back early on, and they had the spare part we needed and offered it to us. But they're working with Holyoke Gas and Electric as the network operator. And Holyoke Gas and Electric was our project manager for the construction of the network. And we had an excellent relationship with Holyoke Gas and Electric during that construction phase. And their chief engineer, we work very closely with, will now be overseeing the operation of our network. So that was, one more reason that just felt this was, would be an excellent choice. And it's not like we're switching to an unknown entity at all. In fact,
Yeah.
we're to somebody we've had a very good working relationship with.
Yeah, all of our interactions with Holyoke Gas and Electric have been excellent. And like Steve said, they're partnering with Shell to offer us some of these network operator services as a subcontractor of Shell.
Okay, questions from select board members? Just unmute yourself. And
Who else do they work with? What other towns do they, I'm just curious.
Yeah, so Leverett is in contract talks with them right now. So, so a neighboring town. They provide the ISP services for Holyoke. So it's this interplay where one of them provides a network operator, one of them provides the internet services. So that's things like customer support and billing. So they already have a working relationship serving those communities.
And Holyoke has been the network operator for Leverett from Leverett's beginning. And actually, when we had an outage due to the vulnerability of a single source, Leverett did not go down because they had the dual backhaul services that Holyoke offered.
Melissa, do you have any questions or comments? So I just had a question, Gail, about if you anticipate at tomorrow night's meeting, will there be any changes to this contract, or this is it?
This is it. My board has had 2 opportunities to, well, 3 opportunities if you count the original version, to do a review of it. And so they've sent comments and they've all been incorporated into the version you have. And Donna, our town legal counsel, has also done a review and signed off on it.
Okay. And my only other question is sort of beyond the dollar savings to all of the subscribers. Do you anticipate additional savings after this contract is?
Well, the good news is that this year we paid off our bond anticipatory note for the construction. And so that represents a reduction of about $100,000 in cost liabilities per year. And so we will be, when passing those on to our subscribers this summer, it's not related to the contract, it doesn't matter who, like those savings would, but we're timing it with the switch over just to make the billing easier. And so everyone is going to see at least a $10 a month reduction on their bills, which I'm just so thrilled about. So that means gigabit speed going to every home in Shutesbury for under $65 a month.
That's great. That's great news. And just my last question is, I thought it was interesting that originally we had a 1-year contract with Crocker, but this is 3 years now. Do we not have?
No, Crocker was also 3 years. Believe it
Oh,
or not,
was.
services started 3 years ago.
It was 3 years ago.
It
Oh
was
my
3 years
gosh.
ago.
Oh my
Yep.
God.
Yeah.
Okay.
2019. Time
All right.
flies.
Yeah, time does fly. That's wow. Okay. So you are looking then for an approval by the select board for the intergovernmental agreement between the Shutesbury Municipal Light Plant and the South Hadley. Is it called Electric Light Department? Is that
Correct. That's the acronym for SHELD.
Okay. For 3 years, beginning August
1st.
1st. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second,
A second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
East O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thanks for all your support. We'll get this done.
Okay, yeah.
And for residents on the call, don't worry about this switch over. We're going to make it as seamless as possible. You'll get more information about it. You don't need to switch your phone number. You don't need to, go through anything. We'll send more information about this over the next few months. And hopefully you won't notice a thing, except continued great service and speed.
Steve, did you want to add something?
Just one final thing. Coming up later in the meeting, you've got the discussion of the warrant article placements, and kind of related to this, I would typically be presenting the MLP budget, and I have to leave town meeting about noon. So if you could push that towards the beginning of the agenda, it would be helpful to me.
You and everybody else wants to be at the beginning. We're going to have a lottery.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll take that under consideration.
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. So the next item on the agenda is to speak with the Shutesbury Athletic Club about the possible extension of live entertainment hours. And just a little bit of background is that we had a request to meet with the select board regarding the extension of hours when we're talking about live music outside. So currently the select board has a memorandum of agreement with SAC, which outlines a whole host of things, including hours for outdoor entertainment. So I see Mark LaSure here, and Mark, are you going to speak to the request?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Well, and if you want me to start now, basically with the outdoor season coming up, we were looking over the schedule, and we have some bands that starting at 7 o'clock to be done by 10 really doesn't seem to work well. So we were hoping to have a conversation and see what the town thinks would be okay. Mainly only talking about weekend nights, May to October, and wondering how late, on Friday and Saturday. In a perfect world, you'd say midnight, but we wouldn't use it most of the time. Most of our bands would probably play 8 to 11 like they play inside right now. Yep, I've talked to
so-
all, whoops, sorry. I talked to the neighbors, the 3 houses across the street, including both sides of the duplex, are all in favor of the idea. Jerry Hayes, not Kevin Hayes, is in favor of the idea. Then the neighbor to our other side, she said she would consider it, but I hadn't actually talked to her a second time.
Okay, so in anticipation of this discussion tonight, I think most people here, there was a town announce and information put out about the request, and we sent a letter to the approximately 50 households that live within a 2,000-foot, kind of drew a circle, 2,000 feet, and sent letters to all of those households, and then also posted the same letter asking for people's take on the extension of the outdoor hours for outdoor music. And it garnered a lot of opinions, including from a number of people who do live within that 2,000-foot radius. And I know Eric did some compilation of the responses that we got. And again, we got responses both from, just other people who lived a distance from the SAC, but also what we're calling, the neighbors. And Eric, do you want to kind of give us that summary?
Sure. Well, my general sense, and believe me, this was hardly the most scientific study. I just took the letters that came to select board, read them, and put them in categories, but whether they were for or against, or as for example, Jeff said tonight, well, maybe it could be till 11. I would put that in the maybe category. So I had a maybe category that was just something a little different than there is now. But anyway, the end result of all that, from my guess, would be that we got 10 responses from people who lived right near the club in that 2,000-foot circle. 7 of those responses were definitely not to extend the hours. Some more definite than others, like with capital letters, no, things like that in their emails. But anyway, that was 7-1. And then there were 2 people that sort of were in that maybe category. I call the resident category, the people that lived in town who were not in that 2,000-foot radius. There were, let's see, there were now, I'm changing this a little bit because we got a couple late responses. We had 18 responses, and the no responses in that category, I'm sorry, the yes responses in that category were 7, and the no responses were also 7. The maybe category was 4. So the general sense of all this, I would say, is that people were not in favor of it. I mean, the total group was like 14 no and 8 yes. It wasn't a resounding no in terms of numbers, but it was a definite no.
Maybe.
I would say that. So I don't know if there's any questions I can answer them, but that's what I came up with.
Go ahead. Eric,
Yes.
I just wanted to add, I had one more letter that was hand delivered that was a no to midnight, but a yes to compromising at 11. It's one
Right.
more.
So that would be I would put that in the, for example, in the maybe category, because it's not what there is now, but it's not just a license to do whatever you want. So I put it as a maybe. So I guess that would be in that same category.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes.
So in the ones that you say are definite no, I mean, how do we know they're just saying no because they saw the midnight? Did they say no, not at all, or no because they thought it was going to be midnight? The way I wrote the request to have a conversation.
The letter we wrote and sent out. I don't have it right in front of me, but I don't believe it said midnight. Did it? Just said extended hours.
Extended hours, but then we did a subsequent information because then a few people asked exactly what
Okay.
it was going to be, and it said it could be up till midnight, not that it was absolutely midnight.
Right.
My read mark on the nose was they did not equivocate. It was 10 o'clock was the latest. It didn't mean that 11 o'clock would be okay or midnight. And it included people who have young children and people who have significant health issues for whom the late night, the music, the noise. And one of the points that was made, which I hear the noise at I shouldn't say the noise, I hear the music at my house. I am within the 2,000 feet.
I've been part of that noise, just saying.
But one of the things that was mentioned was that it's not only when the music ends, is that for about an hour after the end of the music, that there is significant, just from people who are there. We don't hear that at our house, but I imagine that if you are within a few hundred feet of the athletic club, that you could hear that. So it extended the time. And another concern that was raised was having police coverage that late and having people drinking for an extended period of time, and what that meant in terms of, and it's not only people, people who are driving from a distance, sort of what the impact is on the police department and on public safety in town. So there were a whole bunch of issues that were raised that went beyond simply the noise factor. Melissa, I wanted to give you a chance if you had anything to.
I would thank you, Eric, for putting together the Excel sheet. That was very helpful. When reading through them, it was helpful to see it in a graph. It's hard when people want entertainment and also neighbors want sleep. So I do identify with both of those things. I lived on Lady Slipper Lane, and I could hear the music from there too at night when it was outside. So I understand that. That's really nice.
Any questions from select board members for Mark?
I'd like to say something.
If you can just wait 1 second, and I'll open it up. We have a short period of time. I did say that we would let some people from the community speak to this.
The
Linda,
only comment I would make is it does allow, the current memorandum of understanding does allow music after 10 o'clock, just not outside.
Indoors.
Yes,
correct.
indoors.
Yes.
Let's be clear about that. That's
Yes.
kind of how I'm thinking of it. It's like, it doesn't really say you can't do it, just says you can't do it outside, which is, that's a little more reasonable to me. There is that. So I would just point that out.
We'll take a couple of comments from townspeople. What I said in the letter is that we would allow comments from people who didn't have the opportunity to, not able to send us something in writing. So, Mark?
Rita, this is
Yeah.
Linda. I think it was Mark Olszewski that wanted to speak.
Yeah, thanks,
Right,
Linda.
yeah, yes.
I just wanted to say that those are all valid points. Especially the young children, and also when the band ends at 10 o'clock, that there are numerous people outside congregating and not going inside. So those are all valid points. And I guess as far as the letters going out, the consensus was that nobody really was in favor of this. Maybe a few maybes or possibilities, but in a nutshell, nobody was in favor of that. And that's really all we wanted to find out, is if anybody was. And if we didn't ask, we wouldn't know. So I appreciate you. I do appreciate you sending out the letters to the 2,000-foot radius to get a broader opinion than just the 5 or 6 letters that we went to. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to be clear, Mark, some people did think it was okay. Just to be clear, there were people that did think it was a good idea and advocated for it. So just saying, they weren't in the majority by any means, but they were there.
Okay.
And they
All right,
weren't the
thank you.
immediate neighbors.
Yeah.
So, makes a
That's
big
right.
difference.
No,
Yeah.
there was one immediate neighbor.
One. But other than
You know,
that,
and also, we do, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, we do have an agreement that if for a special event, we do have to clear with the chief of police of this to get authorization to do it. But it has to be approved, and we just can't do it. It has to be approved for a special event.
right. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Do you feel like you need a vote from the board, or we don't really
I
have
don't.
Okay,
I don't. Oh no.
okay. So you get the,
We
okay,
we get the gist of it.
you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your coming this evening, and thank you to all the people who took the time to get in touch with us and kind of express their opinions. So.
And I do believe, I would agree with that. Thank you, Rita. But I would also say that, I mean, the Shutesbury Athletic Club, I think, is a tremendous resource for this town. We are so lucky that of all the little towns around and so forth, we have the Shutesbury Athletic Club. Now, that's awesome. And I appreciate all the work that's done by the people that keep that running.
Not only keep it running, but also make it accessible to
Yeah.
town events. So beyond.
Well, thank
beyond
you.
the
Well, thank you.
dinners and the fundraising and everything else.
No, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We definitely try and we try to improve it every year moving forward. So we're always open to suggestions.
Great. Well, thank you to both Marks.
Thank you,
Thank
Rita.
you.
Okay, so Kristen, I see you are here with us, and can you give us tell us about the CJIS policy? I know I asked Becky
Okay.
what it was, but I don't have it.
I was going to start with the fantastic news, but I'll start with the sort of like boring news.
Okay.
So I need to institute a CJIS policy. CJIS stands for Criminal Justice Information Center, and basically it is a portal for all things information in regards to people, license plates, licensure, anything national as far as reporting stolen vehicles, stolen guns, anything like that. This is a super, super important portal that we have. And it is by no means a right. It is a privilege to have it. Along with that comes very serious things that you have to do. You have to sign a user agreement every year. Every 2 years, you have to take a test. It's a CJIS Next test is what it's called, to make sure you're in compliance and understanding of the protocol in regards to CJIS and the information in regards to that. And then every 5 years, you have to do a background check on everyone that has powers to use CJIS, so any police officers and our IT department. So you have to be in compliance. The CJIS policy is something that we are not technically in full compliance with. We don't currently have a CJIS policy. We have some other policies that speak to CJIS. For instance, our MDT, our mobile data terminals, our laptops in the cruiser. We have a policy for that speaks to CJIS. We also have within other policies things that speak to CJIS, but it doesn't have its own policy. And I would like to implement that. The policy that I've brought before you comes directly from CJIS, and it is a Massachusetts Police accredited standard policy. I've read through it, and these are all things that we already do, but we just need to have the policy in place.
Questions from select board members?
Kristen, if we a vote to approve it, it's instantaneously starts.
Yes, thank you. If you do a vote to approve it, I just put it into play as of today, effective date as of today. And therefore, anytime CJIS asks for our policy, I just hand them back what they've provided, basically with our effective date. Yes.
Is there any reason you can think of not to do it?
Myself, absolutely not. In fact, it just solidifies the understanding for any employees that have CJIS powers. It just solidifies their understanding of it, and they can then reflect back on. And if anything's done improperly, then we have the policy to fall back on to make sure they're in compliance with things. It goes over procedures and things like that in the policy. I think it's important, actually.
And Kristen, why didn't we have a policy prior to this?
Well, I am not sure about that, Rita. It may have been in the past, and I would say in the Tom Harding era that it wasn't necessary to have. It might have been that. I'm not positive. I did see some notes. Tom left beautiful files for me. So I did see in his notes that he had things speaking to a possible policy. That might have been something that he was going to be working towards. But the 2 years before me, there definitely should have been one in play. And that's why CJIS and myself have been in discussion. They are coming out to do an audit on the 12th, an in-person audit.
So I just want to be clear, this is something, a portal that we need to be using.
The
Correct.
police department, law enforcement
Right.
agencies must. If we didn't have this, we wouldn't be able to do our jobs, basically. Yeah.
Okay. And this policy is just to be clear about how it's used, who uses it, that sort of thing.
Yes, and the what CJIS requires in order for us to use it. In other words, the background checks and things like that. And that we're not using it improperly. We must use it only in the course of our duties.
Okay. Any other questions from select board members? All right, so you are looking for a vote to approve the CJIS policy for the Shutesbury Police Department.
Yes, and make it effective as of today, please.
Okay, effective today. So do I hear a motion to that effect?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we approve the CJIS policy effective today.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Lisa O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, so we have a couple of other things. Kristen?
Yes, thank you for the approval of that. Next up, I have some exciting news. As you all know, I have been enrolled in the Bridge Academy that I have been doing for the past 6 months. We were given a year to complete it. I was able to complete it within a 6-month period, and I completed it on April 21st. Very exciting news. That is finished for me. So on to the next steps for that. In order to get my exemption, the exemption is that I will not have to attend an in-person full-time academy. They will take my years of service plus my Bridge Academy that I just completed through the MPTC. And pending your approval and your signature, I can file for an exemption. Upon approval of that, I will be a certified full-time officer, certified through the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and approved by the Post Commission. So some of the things that they ask for is that I have completed the Bridge Academy, which I have, that I have at least 2,400 hours of patrol time, which I just wrote down. I have, my apologies. As of right now for the town of Shutesbury, I have 3,139 patrol hours. It is mandated that I have at least 2,400, so I have well more than what is needed. I calculated through asking dispatch in the Berkshires, the dispatch we use, Dalton Dispatch, to calculate my patrol hours there. They were able to calculate that I had close to 4,000 hours with them as well, bringing my total up to more than 7,000 patrol hours, which is well more than what is needed. So I have that criteria met. And all I will need is a signature from the three of you stating that you approve and attest to the above information that I stated, that I've completed the bridge, that I have the hours that I needed, and then I can send that in. I would like to get that sent in by tomorrow, if I have all of your signatures, because if I meet that deadline, then I am going to be placed on their calendar for next month, the 18th, for review with hundreds of other officers to review and get approved through the MPTC, potentially to have my exemption.
Okay, questions, the select board?
I'm all set.
You all set? Okay, so,
I forgot one thing, Rita, I'm
Yep.
sorry. And the last criteria was that there was no interruption or break of service greater than 5 years. And I also have the proof that there wasn't for that as well. I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Okay, so we are, just tell me again, you need us to sign off on the
Exemption form,
the MPTC, the
Yes.
Massachusetts, and that stands for,
Massachusetts Police Training Commission.
okay. So the Massachusetts Police Training Commission exemption form. So do I hear a motion to approve the Massachusetts Police Training Commission exemption form?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. And congratulations, Kristen. That's
Thank you.
you know, great news. I know that was a lot of working and attending the Bridge Academy was a lot.
It definitely was challenging. I just want to say thank you to the select board for approving this, and thank you for your support. And I want to say thank you to Becky Torres, who supported me continuously through and made sure that I, had everything I needed and things went smoothly. So thank you.
And I just want to check in with Melissa and Eric that you're available to come to town hall in the morning to sign the forms. And is there anything beyond this? I know I have the MLP, intergovernmental agreement to sign, so.
These two, and the trash,
Oh, okay, that comes up, the Casella, okay. All right, anything else, Kristen?
I think that's everything for
Okay.
now.
Okay. Okay, great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So staying right on schedule here. So the next item on the agenda is for the select board to review the police study group final report. And I believe that was sent out. Both Melissa and I served on the police study group as a subcommittee of the select board, so we're pretty familiar with the report. So it's all on you, Eric. Make sure that you read it, studied it, and
I studied, it's right here.
Wow, congratulations.
We're impressed. So Melissa, you chaired the committee, and maybe if you could give us an overview of who was on the committee and then kind of the major elements in the report.
So the members of our group, I'll go alphabetically because that's what I have in front of me. It was Kristen Burgess as the police department representative, Melody Cartier as the personnel board representative, Rita as a select board representative, Cheryl Hayden as one of our community at large representatives, Mary Jo Johnson, also a community at large member, myself as a select board member, Susie Mosier as a FinCom member, Becky Torres as ex officio, and we had a former member resign, and that was Mike Vinsky. He was a community at large representative as well. So in the report, we took the charge of the group and we answered the questions with information as we put it together as we went through the process. So some of our process was to look at the charge, gather information. We looked at the current police department's calls and past calls, and those are categorized into data points that we could use. We looked at budgets of towns in Franklin County, as well as the size of their departments and the structure of their departments. We sent out a community-wide survey, 2 per household. We received 322 responses. 7 of them were blank, so we had 15 that we used as our data points for that. But while we were also doing those tallying of the survey, we interviewed the members of the police department, 5 of them of the police department, and those were invaluable. So that's kind of the process we went through. We looked at the South County report that was put together by a consultant, and that was helpful in our process for how South Deerfield, Whately, and Sunderland looked at sharing a chief. Ultimately, they decided not to. So that was kind of the nutshell. In the report, you'll find various information about pros and cons of each one of the 5 options we talked about, which was sharing a chief, contracting services, remaining independent and autonomous, Mass State Police as a police option, regionalization, and there was another model brought forward by one of our committee members of on-call. So that's kind of in a nutshell. The community survey did inform us that our town does like to have our own police department, with a 62% saying they like to keep what we have. And so you'll find all those details into the report. I think I hit on just about all the little snippets. If there's anything I skipped, let me know. It was a long process.
The only thing I would suggest is maybe just talking a little bit more about the survey. And I know we got a great response rate, but kind of what the survey was looking to, the information that it was looking to gather from the community.
Yep, so the information the survey was looking at, we asked a variety of questions, and some of them, I think, what we wanted to know if anyone had used the police services and in what way without describing the situation. And we wanted to see how happy people were also with our police department and such. So a few of the questions, one of them, I'm just scrolling through, give me 1 second. Give me a second to find it. If someone had, so one of the questions was if we had, anyone in the family had contact with the police department, and about 59% said someone in the family had contact with the police department. It was, a wide variety of respondents had used our police department, which was nice. We also asked what services that people thought the local police department were important to Shutesbury. So some of them were to rate them. Some of them were responses to emergency calls, response to complaints, visual presence, traffic control, preventative control, investigative work, and building relationships. So we got some feedback, and I know this will be helpful for the police department too, in their work to know what was important to our respondents, sorry. We also did, a lot of comments came in too, and people were very, they like to comment, which was helpful. It's hard to put a data point on those comments, but it was very helpful information. We also asked what our acceptable response time was. And the majority of people answered less than 10 minutes. So that helped us know that we need to have police services right in town. Question that we asked also was what hours that were covered, currently 7 to 11, and if people thought that was acceptable. Most people thought that was acceptable, with some comments that they would like to see more. Some people would like to see less. So that gave us some information about how our current department is doing. Overall, I think that we gathered quite a bit of information. We did ask directly if we should have our own police chief and department, and 196 of the 315 said yes, they'd like to keep our own department. And so that helped the study group know that this is what the community would prefer as their option. And so the report doesn't have a recommendation for the select board to look into a shared chief, or otherwise just the community. We felt the community had said what they had wanted in that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. I thought it'd just be good for people who.
Available online. The summary, the PowerPoint that we looked at in our police study group is available online with pie charts and such. So if anyone wants to look at the granular stuff, it's right there for you.
And remind me where it is on the town website.
It's on commit, so I have to find it. Give me a second.
Okay.
It's on committees. I want to walk through. It's committees and boards, active. And then if you scroll down, it has the police study group select board subcommittee. And that brings you to our page that we were using to post all the stuff from the study group. And then all of this information here. We will also put this report up on there as well. Right, Becky?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not there yet.
It's not there yet.
Okay. Eric, do you have any questions, comments?
No, just thank you for you've done a lot of work. People have done a lot of work looking at this, and I appreciate that. I'm sure most people do. My sense is, I think you said it, Melissa, my sense is that we're recommending that we stay the course, as it were. Is that my sense of what you're asking us to do?
So we didn't make a
You
formal.
didn't make that arrangement, but yeah.
But we had suggested, summarizing what we had put in the report, is that the select board take into consideration what the outcome of the survey was, and the community wanted to keep what we had from our survey. So
Okay, thank you.
So I'm assuming that what we want to do this evening is just formally accept the report from the police study group, and take a vote, and then subsequent meetings we'll be having a discussion about where we go from here. Is that
that's a good idea.
okay? All right, so do I hear a motion to accept the report from the police study group?
So moved.
I'll move it since I wasn't on. I'll be the first one since I wasn't on the committee. So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Docker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, so we're a few minutes ahead of schedule. We had 6:55 to talk about the new building committee charge bylaw. I typically don't like to, Linda, you waving your hand at me? You're muted.
I just had a quick question. Will the police study group stay formed, or do you want to disband? And maybe you could
Yeah.
do that now.
So the committee itself, I think I guess we do have to disband because we're,
The only one thing we have left to do, which I think I volunteered for, was to put together the big box of information to hand off to the future generations who want to also go through this study. But I don't need a committee to do that, I don't think.
okay, so that's what we typically do at the end, actually do a vote to disband. Yeah, okay. All right, so do I hear a motion to disband the police study group?
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved.
Okay, I'll second that.
There
Okay,
you go.
any further discussion? All
Other
those in
than
fa-
thank you to everyone.
Yes, and thank you, yeah, a public thank you to everybody who
And the police
served on
department for their patience while we went through that process.
okay, all those in favor of disbanding the police study group, please indicate by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Okay, so we have the new building committee bylaw charge at 6:55, at 6:51 now. Is there anything, I'd like to, keep to that, as close to that as schedule as possible in case anybody is showing up at 6:55. Anything, Becky, that you want to give us either as an update or?
I have one item that's unexpected that I was trying to get in. We have the Mass Arts Cultural Council grant for $5,000. And it's just the straight contract from the state that needs to be approved by the select board and signed.
So is that something that that we get annually?
Yes, it's an distribution. We have a standing cultural council that reviews applications annually and distributes funds for all kinds of programs that benefit the town.
And then we are voting to accept that $5,000. Is that what it is? Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the grant from the Mass
Cultural
Arts Council? Cultural Council?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, we're 2 minutes ahead, so why don't we go ahead and talk about the new building committee bylaw. And Becky, do you want to put it up? Can you share it? At our last meeting, we reviewed this and we had the building committee who joined us and provided some comments. And since then, I've done some editing of the bylaw, and I believe copies were sent today to the building committee members and also to the select board.
Except the select board just got them.
So just to highlight a couple of changes to the bylaw. And for those of you who are attending who haven't been part of this discussion before, what we're talking about is in 1988, there was a bylaw passed to form a town building committee. And we are looking at amending that, doing a pretty significant amendment to that, which was a very, like a 2-line bylaw, and including a bylaw which goes through everything from terms to roles and responsibilities for the town building committee. So if you just hold on a second, we'll share it. Okay, so we probably have a few typos in here, but we can take care of those as we go along. Basically, it's set up in sections, including talking about role, membership. We had some comments about the membership, and that was probably one change, one of the first changes that was made from the previous draft, and that is that we took out the language saying that somebody from the, recommending somebody from the school committee be on the, be a member, and also have added that the town administrator is ex officio, but a non-voting member of the committee. I don't think there were any changes to the term under capital projects. What we've done in the past with regard to capital projects is, and we haven't had a lot of really large ones, but we have had separate building committees. You know, when the school, for example, when the school was done, and what we're recommending here in this bylaw is that that there be representation from the building committee for any, if there's a large separate capital project that's happening, that there's representation from the building committee on the specific project building committee, which did not happen previously. So that's a change from what's been done, and it's incorporated into the bylaw here. I don't believe that, and under section 5, Becky, I think there's probably a parentheses sort of missing under in cooperation with the proposing body. Basically what we're looking to do is to have the building committee work with the town committee or the town department that is seeking to do something, some major project on a town building. So if you scroll down, I don't believe there's other language. Can you go down the?
Yeah, there were no other changes.
No other edits too. And we did meet with the building committee, got comments. We got comments in writing, and made some changes based on the comments that we received. Linda, I see your hand up.
Yes, I had just one possible correction in section 3, where it says regarding these, the last sentence, where it says in any fiscal year of his or her term. I was thinking maybe you would want to say any fiscal year of their term.
Okay, sure.
Steve,
I'm going to take, yeah, I want to take select board members first, and then if we have other comments, I will recognize people. So Melissa or Eric?
I would just say in section 2, there was a comment earlier in the meeting about when there are comments made by the public about, you know, it was too restrictive in the sense that it would only allow, you know, official, you know, building people to work and so forth. But there is that very important phrase, to the extent possible. So it does, I don't think that's really true that it does that. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that the building committee has to be made up of those people. It just says if it can be great, if it can't, okay. Is that I'm not a
Yes.
lawyer, but that's my sense of it.
Yes, that is the correct interpretation. That's why you put that in there. Melissa, do you have any questions or comments about any of the changes?
The changes are fine with me. I'm good. And thank you for putting this together and editing it. I appreciate it.
And Linda, I would just ask if you have any other edits, speak up, because we will be, I assume we will vote on this evening unless we defer to this for next week. You're all set. Thanks. Okay, so I see there are a few members of the building committee here. If you have any comments based on the changes. And I think Steve had his hand up first.
Yeah, I was just curious what happened with the school committee who decided that, or the select board decided to drop that as one of the board members.
Yeah, that was my recommendation. You know, if we start appointing people by buildings, it gets, you know, if we have a new library, then should the library have representation? So that was my, you know, then we get into, you know, having people advocating the interests for their particular building. So that was the thinking behind it, Steve. Bob? You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to expand a little bit on that point, because what I tried to convey in my letter to the select board, my email, was along those lines. I think it's important for us in our government to have checks and balances, and you know, the committee would do its best work if it can do it dispassionately and objectively. And obviously you work in close cooperation with departments. You want to provide them with what they need. You want to work in close cooperation with the town administrator, who's a liaison between the building committee and those departments. What you don't want to see is what you refer to, which is strong advocacy within the committee for the proposals. Yeah, people come before the committee or the finance committee or the capital planning committee, and they pitch their request and they say, this is what we need, and this is why we need it, and this is why you on the committee should support us. But it should never, there should be some separation and some independence by the committee. So I congratulate you for seeing that and taking that aspect out of the school committee member being a permanent sort of fixture on the building committee. But I also think that that town employees in general, they tend to support each other naturally, and that the committees who do their work should have some independence from them, not necessarily hostility or anything of that kind, but simply independence to evaluate a request. And so, you know, for example, on the finance committee, there are certain people that are excluded explicitly from joining it because whoever set up the founding documents of that committee saw that there could be problems with conflicts of interest, and that that board should be separate from, say, the select board, from other officers, the town clerk and other employees of the town. So I think similar fashion that this building committee should have some independence and some from the town employees, because, hey, you know, we're talking about things that could be very costly. And yeah, if we have something come before us and we as building professionals say, for example, which I used in my note, if the building doesn't need to be painted right now, we should be able to say that. I don't know if that interpretation or that fact would be allowable. I was a little concerned by the language that the proposing body determines the extent and character of the work. If the work is not recommended by the building committee, what then? You know, are we just supposed to help facilitate something we don't think is necessary or timely? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it says that, Bob. I think it's, what I believe it says is that the proposing body then works with the building committee. You know, ultimately, the building committee makes recommendations and, you know, as I said at our previous meeting, it's town meeting that makes the decisions. Just as the finance committee advises and recommends, town meeting is ultimately decides. As far as town staff, the town administrator is ex officio non-voting member. And I want to remind everybody that at the end of the day, the select board are responsible, with the exception of the school building, which really the superintendent has, you know, and school committee oversees. The select board oversees all town buildings. So us having a person, a liaison to the building committee makes a lot of sense, but we did remove we did make clear, because it was always my intent and my recommendation to the select board that it be a non-voting member. Let's see, Becky, I know your hand is up, but I want to give Frank first and then Becky.
Thanks, Becky. Thank you for putting all this together. I think this is going to be a positive thing going forward for the town of Shutesbury. Just one question I noticed, section 4 capital projects. The original draft that you gave us was 2 members. Why the change in 1 or 2 members on capital projects? Could you give me some insight on that?
Yeah, I think it was really about just availability. So it's up to the building committee, the town building committee, about whether or not it's 1 or 2 members.
Okay, it's not your choice as a select board.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Becky?
I just wanted to go back to the school and having a representative. The history of that is we started to have a representative when communication was failing between the school and the building committee. And the majority of projects the town was facing were coming from the school committee. And it was in an effort to try to close that gap that we were able to get representation there. We've always had representation, well, at least for a long time, on the capital planning of the school committee. I just wanted to put that point out there. I see Rita's point that if this, you know, if maybe in 50 years we have major buildings for every department, then it would get very silly. And you can see that once you have the library and the school. But I think it was a very important step when we did it. I don't know how if we don't have that representation, keeping that gap tight might be an issue.
Okay, Eric or Melissa, any further comments?
No, not for me.
All right, so I want to check in terms of how you want to proceed here. If both of you feel prepared to go ahead and vote on this evening, or if you want to do it as part of our, when we go through the warrant next week.
I'm okay with it. And to be clear, this is something that has to pass at town meeting. It's not, we
That's
don't
correct.
decide this. Right, okay.
Oh, you know what? I just wanted to make one other point because I just was looking at Frank and it reminded me that that there was a request from the building committee that we incorporate language regarding the removal by majority vote of the committee if members miss a third of the meeting. So as Bob noted earlier, the building committee had a real problem with getting a quorum because people weren't coming to meetings. This is language that's I took from the finance committee bylaw, and so it's incorporated here under section 3 term. So that we don't have these committees, nobody shows up and the committee doesn't have a quorum and can't conduct its business. And I think there was some recommendation that we we have this language in other bylaws. So sorry for that. I just noticed that. Okay. And Melissa, are you comfortable going ahead? Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the town building committee bylaw as presented this evening?
So moved.
Second,
Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Thank you, O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, so we have on our agenda a 15-minute break, which we're going to take now. So some of us can have some dinner before we conduct the rest of the meeting. And just for folks here, we are going to come back at 7:25. And the items for the balance of the select board meeting are to go through the articles for annual town meeting. That's not voting, but rather just going through what the articles are. Review of the contract with Casella, the regional school capital plan, and a request to use lot 032, town administrator updates, and then at 8:05 we have scheduled an executive session regarding a Coles land swap. Okay, thanks, Bob.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for folks who
Thank you.
came this evening, and
Thank you.
you're welcome to come back in 15 minutes.
I have a question. Can I ask a question, Rita?
Who is that?
This is Kathy Carey.
Sure. What is the question?
I was just wondering, I missed the AC meeting. I didn't realize you started so early. I was wondering what happened.
There wasn't a vote, but the sense from people was that that the hours should not be extended. So, we heard from a number of the neighbors, and it was sort of overwhelmingly not to extend the hours beyond 10 p.m.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because I missed the meeting.
Okay, sorry.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, do we need to adjourn, or how do we do this?
No, we just take a break.
Oh, just take a break. Okay, all right. So everybody just stop your cameras and your microphones, and we'll see you at 7:25. Okay, just lost Eric.
I'm here.
Okay, good. Just off camera. All right, so we're going to resume the meeting of the Shutesbury Select Board meeting of April 26th. And the next item on the agenda is to review warrant articles for annual town meeting that's scheduled for May 21st, 2022, and the annual town meeting timeline. So I see our moderator has joined us. And Becky, I'm going to hand this off to you. All right. Getting some feedback again. So if everybody could mute themselves who's not talking.
We're gonna mute me. Becky, go ahead, use your computer. You're good.
I have mine off. Sorry.
Hold on, might be mine.
I think it's you town hall people, just saying.
I think it is. I think you're right.
Mine has been off.
Okay, try that. No, that's not working either. Okay.
But I,
Hang on.
see, it's like this. Oh, I have it off. Oh. We're not coming back.
Okay, is that better?
Yes,
Can you hear Becky?
Can you hear?
yes, we can hear you and there's no feedback.
I'm not, can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me? Oh, now that screen's dead.
I turned it on.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, they can hear me.
Good. I'll get them back. You guys go ahead.
Okay. So can everybody hear me? All right. So we're sticking with the list mostly because, okay, this should transfer. Sorry, one correction here. See, we had, Paul, so you know, and I think Paul does know, the assessors.
Hang on a second. I just turned my speakers back on. Okay, there you go.
All right, so the assessors have come up with 15 warrant articles to be added to the annual town meeting warrant. There are some administrative articles that will also be added. There's still some, so I just wanted to, we only had 5 minutes for this section today, so we're not going over the detailed articles today. But this is going to be a challenge. These, the new warrant articles that have come in are all updates to senior exemptions across the board. And it seems the assessor has determined to establish a baseline because some of the exemptions that are on our books, we cannot give a specific date of when they were adopted by town meeting, and without that date, we can't enforce them. And we've lagged behind on updates to them that have happened. So the assessor is requesting that all of these be put on this year so that a baseline is fully established. And we're hoping to put together, Paul, I had suggested that we will be able to put most of these together on a consent agenda because of the overlapping in content. And they just apply, you know, as you can see here, the loosening of criteria for senior exemptions for 2 of these articles will make it, you know, they're similar, the actions are similar. They're just trying to update all of them at one time so that our seniors have full access to exemptions that they're eligible for. So that was the main addition, Paul, of what we're looking at. And the rest, the warrant is almost 100% complete. I wasn't sure where to put these. So Paul and the select board, if you have any suggestions, whether these might all come closer to the end together before we go into petitions. As I put together the full warrant document, I'd appreciate a little guidance on that.
Becky, is there a way to get information out in advance, either by Kevin doing a, you know, a brief explanation of what all these things are, or having a, you know, a Q&A time, or I don't know. It seems like it's a huge number of articles that we're asking people to, you know, to come to town meeting and not have information in advance. It's going to be a big problem, I would think.
So on May 17th, we're going to do a budget meeting. I'm wondering, the finance committee will do a budget meeting. I wonder if we need to go through, set up a night with the assessor, a separate night. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I mean, either that, or that there be a, you know, something, I know it's too late for the newsletter and we weren't gonna put any, you know, flyers into the newsletter, that there be something, you know, again, a mailing probably doesn't make any sense at this point, but, you know, maybe the best thing would be to have a session with the assessor that people could attend and get some of their questions answered, and where Kevin just goes through what all of this is. Just doesn't sound like there's time to put something, or that it's the time and the expense of putting something out in writing at this point is an issue.
Yeah.
But if you were willing to do, to set aside, you know, an hour and a half or whatever to go through this, so it's not, again, it's not all a town meeting. I don't know, Eric and.
Well, I think
Melissa would
that's a
be
good
nice
idea,
thing.
Rita, but it's a good idea, but I'm not sure it would preclude the notion that you'd have to do it at town meeting too. Because, you know, who's going to go to that meeting, right? I mean, so maybe 10 people or whatever it is, but not the town meeting's worth of people who are all going to be asking these questions. Legitimately so. I'm not saying they aren't,
Yeah.
but, you know,
Yeah.
I'm
What
not
if
sure it'll make that.
What if there was something that was available at town meeting? I know it's a lot for people to read, but if there was a summary sheet, you know, if we're not going to get a decent turnout and people are going to be repeating the same questions, if we had something to hand out to people so that during a break or whatever, they could read it.
What happens if we make it available online so people can see the materials online? At the very least that.
Yeah, so maybe that's the first step, Melissa. That's a great idea, is that we have it up and then we have a handout too. So the same thing, that whatever goes up online. Yeah, my understanding, and I don't know if somebody has better information, is that with town announce that we don't have as broad a capture rate as we want, you know, for townspeople. But if, you know, if we could get something out on town announce, get something up on the town website, and then have you know, have something available at town meeting that just gives a, you know, a brief description of what each one of those articles is. It could maybe save some time and aggravation.
Just
Now,
a
Paul's-
technical point, does this have to be at the annual town meeting? Could it be a special town meeting that just deals with this only later on? Is that a crazy idea?
We're not planning a special town meeting at this point. And we're limited, you know, because with COVID, okay, number one, if we have a special, we won't have a tent.
Right.
Will we do it indoors? Will we do it outdoors without a tent?
We can do it at the AC Pavilion as long as we're done by 10 o'clock. Just kidding. I don't know. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Paul, do you have a take, Paul?
Yeah, actually, I have some of the same concerns, Rita, that you've expressed. But I've got some questions too. First of all, Becky, did you say that these are just updates of existing exemptions that we have to get like a timestamp on, basically?
Correct, because a lot of, when he went back to verify that when we adopted them, a number of he could not verify a specific date when these were adopted.
But these are on the books already in town.
Well, not all of them.
Oh, well, it's too bad. If they were, if it was just getting the date established and updating existing exemptions, I don't think it'd be that controversial. But if some of them are new, I think there's going to be a lot of questions. I still have questions. I want to know what the finance committee would think about these, what the financial implication is likely to be, things like that. The other thing I wanted to say is that certainly getting as much information out beforehand as possible is good. We had briefly talked a couple select board meetings ago about the possibility of piggybacking a kind of a secondary meeting on the upcoming FinCom budget meeting, where we could, for those that are interested and want to stay, maybe after the FinCom meeting, we could just kind of go through the other warrant articles. So people could just get an idea of what was going on before we get to town meeting. So that would be the other opportunity, rather than try to schedule a whole other meeting before town meeting, to explain some of these.
So have a budget half and then town meeting warrant half, or including the assessor and others to explain their work.
I think that makes most sense, for efficiency's sake. It'll be a long evening, but you folks are used to long evenings like tonight anyway.
Okay, now that sounds like, and you'd be willing to moderate that, Paul, an extended meeting?
Yeah, well, I was, I had already agreed to moderate the finance committee budget information session. So sure, I would just stay on to go over this. I mean, I have a vested interest in people understanding what's on the warrant. So certainly I'd be willing to do that.
That's wonderful.
And I guess I would still advocate for having something in writing from Kevin on these. So Linda, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that Kevin will have something in the Our Town newsletter regarding this.
How detailed is it, Linda?
There's not a lot of detail. I'm looking at it now. And he said that it's updating tax exemptions. Most of the exemptions were enacted by the legislator decades ago. Some have been updated. The Board of Assessors has submitted articles for the warrant to ask voters to accept relevant state laws, which would allow us to offer the most recent revised exemptions to town seniors, veterans, and other eligible residents. And then he does provide a little bit more about the means tested property tax exemption, which voters approved last year. And then, anyway, that's,
yeah.
Well,
I guess that's sort of an overview that
Yep.
maybe we want to
Yep.
go article by article, just a couple of sentences is what, I would suggest, but.
Actually, what I copied out in this list that's still on screen were his brief explanations, but they were more detailed in that they identified the statute. He does this, he gives this by statute and what has to happen. So I think his fuller explanations are helpful, and maybe compiling all those into a report. But I think that the financial impact, like Paul brought up, is is what people are really concerned about.
Okay. I didn't want to get bogged down in this, but so we were just kind of going over the, but maybe you can let Kevin know kind of what we talked about this evening and see if he would be available if we do a second part after the review of the town budget.
Okay.
And again, that's on the 17th.
Yep.
All right. Anything else from the, Paul, any other questions you have concerning the warrant?
Sorry, did you say me, Rita?
Yes, yes.
Are you going to be going over them, anymore, or was this it for this evening?
No, we have to vote next week.
Right. No, I understand.
On
that.
all the articles, yeah.
Right. Well, I guess the only other question I had, again, was regarding the citizen petitions and whether there, whether there are any updates on those, if they're still, I think there were 5 of them last time I knew. Are there still 5? And I guess that's a question for you, Becky, maybe.
Yes, there's still 5. Am I muted? No.
Nope.
Yeah. There's still 5. No new ones have come in.
Okay. And I guess I'll give you a call sometime, Becky, soon, so we can talk a little bit more. And I do want to talk to the petitioners beforehand. Just like an FYI for the select board's information. I mean, typically in recent years, the select board has made all the actual motions. But when it comes to citizen petitions, I think it's more appropriate that one of the actual petitioners be allowed to make the motion. Just in case, in some cases they may want to withdraw the article before it even gets onto the floor. So I want to give them that option. So if there's no objection, I guess, on the part of the select board, that's the way I would want to proceed with the citizen petition articles.
Eric and Melissa, you
That's
okay?
fine.
with that?
That's fine.
Yeah,
That's
it's fine
fine
with
with
me
me.
too. Okay.
Okay, good. And then the only other thing I had was, Rita, actually, a little bit earlier, you had mentioned when someone asked about the order of the articles, that, maybe we'll have a lottery. And that is actually done in a number of communities, exactly to avoid the type of situation that you're no doubt experiencing right now.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it actually is. I mean, there's some ordering that is needed, in the warrant. You have to vote on certain things before you can vote on the budget, for example. But for the most part, you can kind of, put those in the order they have to be in, and then just have a lottery for the remaining ones. It just, it takes all of the pressure, I guess, off the select board, from getting all this, feedback from people about, I got to bring my kids to soccer, can we do this article first, all of that. So it's just something to consider. The order is very important. I know it's on a lot of people's minds this year in particular. So, I think you want to think a little bit about what your options are in terms of how to order the articles.
Okay. Thanks. So we're going, I assume the bulk of our meeting next week is just to do the warrant. So let's keep that in mind and we can talk about it as we're putting the warrant together. Okay. Thanks, Paul. All right. So we're running behind schedule now. The next item on the agenda is to review the hauling disposal contract with Casella, which we have now talked about at the last few meetings and met with the solid waste committee, the recycling and solid waste committee. And I believe that we wanted to make sure we would see the contract before we signed it. And I know there was a lot of back and forth. Becky, are there any substantive changes from what we've talked about?
I think, no, I think we have concluded all the adjustments you were a part of. We got the, for the full, sorry, 1 second. It's the 5-year. So the contract pricing over 5 years, we're starting with 125,952, and we're going up by 4% for years 2, 3, 4, and 5. For a total contract of $682,199. The original had a 5.5% increase, and the reduction to 4% saves the town around $30,000, a little over $30,000. So that's one of the key components. The second is that we had a lot of back and forth was how to work in the surcharge, the fuel surcharge. So this contract is combining the disposal, and when we built the disposal contract with Casella, we ended up adopting their recommended fuel surcharge in the disposal contract. This will also be used in the hauling contract. Again, the thing that will change in the hauling contract is the 540, this example will change because there won't be a 540-mile round trip between Holyoke and Shutesbury. But in this part of the contract, it is 540 miles. But that's the other main factor that was changed, because we were able to get it down from $5 per gallon. No, it was at a $3.25 floor. So anything over that, we had to pay the surcharge on, and we were able to raise that to $4 per gallon. So that was a savings. I think those are, and we're also embedding the disposal services contract into the hauling contract. So that is the one other change that is being made.
That's the one we already voted on. right?
Yep. So that's going into this contract.
Okay, questions? Eric and Melissa?
Just to be clear, this has all been run by town council, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this is something we have no choice about. We need somebody to collect our trash. So I know there was a tremendous amount of time spent by the committee and by Becky and getting these negotiations done. So we really appreciate all of that work and all of that time that was spent doing this. So do I hear a motion to approve the 5-year hauling disposal contract with Casella?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Lisa O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the regional school capital plan notice and request for acknowledgement. And this is something that we took up at least once at one previous select board meeting. And I'm going to try to summarize it and then let me know if I have this accurately. So the regional school committee voted to approve the issuance of debt for improvements. It's a whole, there's a kind of package of improvements, including, I believe, the roof and the track at the school. And the way it works is that we get notice of and we have the documents which were, we had at a previous meeting about the vote, and we have to acknowledge receipt. And so it goes to all 4 towns, and if we don't acknowledge receipt, it in effect says we don't approve of the issuance of that debt. So there's no other, is that right? No. Okay, so Becky, all right, so I'm going to stop there.
It is really confusing, but if you don't send the letter in, they don't have assurance that you got notice. That's all
I
that.
see. Okay. Oh, so it's not like a negative. They don't have assurance that we got noticed, and in effect, isn't it saying we?
They're looking, so the notice that they're giving you says, this capital plan will be assessed to your town over the next few years. If you object, you have 60 days to hold a special town meeting and object to it. And if 2 towns move ahead and do that, they have to go back to the drawing board. If we don't object to it and put that, put an article on a warrant and hold a town meeting within that 60 days, then we're basically passing it by default.
And the 60 days started at the end of March. Was that when we were notified?
I think it's the date that they voted, which I think could be March 15th.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And 60 days from March 15th would, yeah, would
17th,
be.
the 17th, I think they voted.
But that would even be before our annual town meeting.
With April, we'll have to count the days. We'll be really close. So if the finance committee, who has not yet fully discussed it, wanted to take action, a special town meeting would have to be called immediately.
I see. Okay. And when is the finance committee discussing this? Do we know?
Tomorrow night.
So there's really no, I mean, from my vantage point, is there any action we would want to take? I can't imagine we'd want to take any action before the finance committee had reviewed this.
Well, I think you can say that you've received the document.
Yeah, you can
We're
receive
gonna
it.
say we received it, and
Yeah.
then,
A letter is asking you to say.
okay. It just seems like such a bizarre process, I gotta say. Send them a letter, yeah, we got your.
Yeah. It's, but because the school committee has that authority, the only authority the towns have is to fight back, or.
And that would be at a special town meeting in our case.
Special town meeting, which would happen most likely because, if our regular town meeting would have been within the 60 days. And I think
Right.
towns normally would have been within that 60 days.
Okay.
They've put together their warrants already, which I will call around tomorrow and find out if anybody is planning to object. Because if no other town is, even if we want to object, it won't have any impact.
Yeah, that would be good to know if anybody else is taking this to town meeting. Okay, so we need a vote then to acknowledge receipt of the capital plan from the regional school committee.
I make a motion that we vote to, I make a motion that we officially receive the capital plan for the regional school.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. And so we'll have this on the agenda then for next week's meeting about what action the finance committee took.
Yes,
Becky, okay.
you can put it on and find out what they think.
Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is a request to use lot 032 for an event. And is somebody here to speak to that?
The request has come from, I think Susie Mosier is here to speak to that. I did
Okay.
see the meeting, and she is the one who has put in the application for the Friends of the Library.
Okay. Susie?
Yep, so that's coming on, the event is planned for May 1st. We notified the fire, police, Board of Health. We bought an extra part to our insurance policy to cover these kinds of events. There will be a bake sale, story walk, a balloon man, and the footprint will be laid out by then, and people will be able to walk around in the space that we are envisioning for our library. It's not going to be, it's just a general model. It's not the specific model. It's not even in the specific location or orientation. It's just a chance for people to understand the space that the new library proposal encompasses, which is 5,490 feet.
So Susie, this is something that's going to be set up and then broken down afterwards. Is that?
No, the event, the footprint will stay up on through town meeting and probably on beyond that. The event is going to have pop-up tents and tables for the bake sale and the merchandise sale and all that. That will go down after 4 o'clock. Events from 2 to 4 on that Sunday, but the footprint stays. And
Okay.
along with the footprint is some information sheets and some signage.
Okay, so this is, I know we did a event approval at either one of our recent select board meetings. So this is just, there needs to be a sign off by the select board.
Mhm.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to approve the application for a special event at lot 032 on May 1st, 2022? And the time of you said it's still 4 o'clock? From
2 to 4, yep.
2 to 4, from 2 to 4 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so town administrator updates.
Okay. My screen was bigger this one. Okay, so the exciting thing that happened this week in the town of Shutesbury is the gym roof was repair and replace, the gym roof replacement was completed this week. And I just received photos from the contractor, which people will find very interesting. The oddity of this roof has been that it's an EDPM roof, but it's constructed upside down, where these blue boards you see that are covered in dirt were covered in concrete tiles, about 2 foot by 2 feet. And hence we had many, many trees and bushes and weeds growing on our roof over time, which was not supposed to be a green roof. And we had lots of leaks. But it's with great excitement, to see these pictures of seeing that the tiles are being removed. A new, more traditional roof has been replaced with all kinds of insulation and the right kind of roofing materials on the top. And we no longer have all of this, the dead weight of hundreds of concrete tiles on top of our roof. And at the end of the day, I'm sorry I can't share this other photo that I just got, but it's try to hold it up to the photo. If you can see in my screen, our new roof is a brilliant white roof. And it's refined to the point where, yeah, that one right there. And there are tiles, there are 2 air vents like that protruding from the roof. And they are surrounded by tiles for people to walk on. But this is a greatly modernized roof. The drainage is now, that comes off the roof is going into holes and draining in the interior of the gymnasium. We are not spilling water down this concrete wall. We are not throwing it onto the sidewalk any longer. So it's exciting stuff. I just wanted to share that we have, this has been the most frequently complained about section of the roof for the last 8 years. We've had many different engineers try to assess where the leaks come from. But at this point, we hope to no longer have any more leaks. Do you have any questions about the roof?
No, just hallelujah.
Yeah, really.
Celebration. Celebration. And our engineer is very, very pleased with the professionalism of the contracting company, Cape Way Roofing, that came to do our work. I found them to be on schedule, and when they could get their materials, after an 8-month delay. But they have been very, very competent and good to work with. Everything was cleaned up. Just a dumpster, 2 dumpsters were remaining to be taken away on Monday morning. So it was quite a great accomplishment for the town.
A big relief for the school, I'm sure.
Yeah. And the next rainstorm we have, it'll be exciting to walk around and not get
we're
leaked
now
on.
hoping for rain, right?
Yeah.
Now hoping.
Well, no, because of the rest of the roof. We got to get that done. The other update I have is completed the American Rescue first report that's due on April 30th. Even though we haven't spent any money yet, they have quite an arduous process just getting the account set up and learning all the ins and outs of the treasury. So we're prepared after town meeting, the select board will start to really look at the American Rescue funding and sort out priorities for the town, if not before. But there's not a lot of time beforehand. So that is something we'll be working on for the next year, certainly. Michael DiCara has made milestones on his work on the MVP grant. He reports that having done years of being involved in government grant writing, that the MVP was a real challenge for him. So I am very appreciative, we all are in town, that he was able to tackle it so we can get it done on the deadline.
And Becky, can you just give a very brief description of what we'd be applying for?
Okay, so we're applying for assistance in, I should have brought this report with me.
Yeah.
We would like to get help in identifying the best ways to handle our dirt roads where they intersect at driveways and where they intersect with other dirt roads. And to do that, we're proposing that we hire an engineer who will help establish the practices that are needed and help us identify, prioritize 5 or 6 cases in town where we could utilize green infrastructure and low ebb design in those cases. And then to put together a case book of practices that we can hold an educational workshop for people to address their own situations, especially around the lake where people have where the private roads need better solutions than they've been coming up with to this time. And then we'll work on creating any not legislative, but any regulations that are needed in our regulations to assist in addressing the stormwater flow and do a better job of handling our stormwater in town overall through implementing simple practices. That was
Okay,
a
thanks. And we would expect to vote on submission. So everybody, the select board would get the summary and vote at the next week's meeting,
Yes,
the grant application.
May 3rd.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Becky?
No.
Okay, thank you. So the next and last item on the agenda is to go into executive session. And Linda, I'm going to rely upon you to lead me through I'm looking at the steps here, and I just want to make sure that I'm going through this process correctly. So we convene the executive session in open meeting and give notice. And I will describe the reason for the executive session. And it is for reason number 6. And I'm going to read what that reason is. It's to consider the purchase, exchange, taking, lease, or value of real property if such discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the governmental body, which is in this case, the select board. So,
Rita, yes, you have a motion and the motion wants to include not to return to open session.
okay. So do I hear a motion to go into executive session for reason number 6? And to not return to public session after the executive session.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, and just for folks who are attending, we will ask you to leave as soon as we start the executive session. So all those in favor of going into executive session for reason number 6, indicate by saying aye.
Peace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, thanks for folks for coming this evening.
Thank you.
And do we stop the recording too, Linda? Or
Yes, so